Welcome back. As you probably already know, Sigma has kind of changed the landscape of what it's possible to do with lenses design. They keep pushing pretty wild focal ranges or apertures, stuff that is no one else really does. And this 28 to 45 f1.8 is a clear example of that. This lens is just exceptional. And if you're on an L mount, there's nothing that compares to it. Today, as of the beginning of 2025, Sony has launched the 28 to 70 f2, which basically goes against this lens and it extends the telephoto range of it, but it does it with cost that it's more than double the price of this one. So yes, it's probably a more versatile option, but you need to think whether you want to spend more than $3,000 on that lens or not. This one comes at half the price. And for what it does, this lens is just exceptional. Now, this video is not going to be about specs. You've seen, since this lens is not new, you've seen plenty of those around the internet, and I'm sure those videos are going to be more than enough for you to understand about the specs of this lens. But how is it to use this lens in a real world scenario? What is it like to use this lens? It's just great. Now, of course, Sigma zooms the other way around. It's something that when it comes to quality, when it comes to the build of the lens, I hate that Sigma does that. But aside from that, it's not a big deal. The lens is super well built. You can feel it. The weight is definitely substantial. It's not a portable lens by any stretch of imagination. But on the other hand, you get a pretty well designed lens. It's well built. You definitely understand. You definitely see how premium it is once you start using it. The range may seem a little bit limited when you go to 28 to 45, and that's what I was thinking about when I started thinking about getting this lens. I got it used, and I really thank myself for giving it a try, because this lens, as I mentioned, is already exceptional. I've used it for various stuff, events. I brought it on a walk in what would be a landscape session or like travel session, although this lens is not built for that. I've used it in a rock climbing competition. I use it for a lot of stuff. And that's the rock climbing competition gig made me change my mind about the range. Because 28 to 45, yes, it's limited. But also with a 60 megapixel camera like the ones that I have on Sony, you can easily go to APS-C mode and you basically get a 28 to 70, okay? Something around that range. Yes, it's APS-C. Yes, you give up part of the megapixel and you don't get the depth of field that you get with a proper 70 f1.8. But also, most of the time, that doesn't really matter. And even 45 millimeters at f1.8 at the proper distance gets you plenty of blurriness of the background. And so I kind of changed my mind on the range of this lens. Yes, of course, if it was a 28 to 70, I wouldn't have complained, but most likely it was going to be ginormous. This is already, as you can see, it's a pretty big one. It's not that like you get a small lens. And if it was a lot bigger, it could have become a problem with handling and stuff like that. As it is, it handles pretty well on a Sony A7R5, so on the kind of a bigger bodies. Of course, on A7CR, it's a different story. It feels a lot more front heavy, and it's not necessarily the best way to go with it. But in general, when using it, you just feel like this lens belongs to the top end of the cameras that you're using. The autofocus has been super reliable, very fast. I was actually surprised that at the way I could focus at 3200 ISO. Like the lighting was pretty dim in most of the scenarios. I was surprised. I could get pretty much every shot in focus unless I was missing my focus point. And the sharpness that you get even at 1.8 is kind of surprising because usually these extreme zoom lenses are a little bit weak when wide open. And I kind of expected a little bit of weakness with this lens, but realistically, no, you're not gonna, yeah, of course, if you stop down, you're gonna get a better image quality, but that goes without saying. But in a normal use case scenario, it's just spectacularly good at f1.8. Now, you're not seeing the lens right now recording me because I have it in my hands, but you're seeing another video that I recorded with that lens on the screen right now, just to explain how it works for video. In my opinion, it works spectacularly good. There's pretty much no focus bleeding, almost no focus bleeding at all. The autofocus is smooth, fast, accurate. You can definitely rely on this lens for both photos and videos. It's definitely a lens that checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Maybe you don't want to go around with a lot of primes, right? But you want a fast aperture lens. This lens may be with you. It basically replaces your 28, 35, and 50 millimeters. And if you're okay using the crop mode in your camera, it also replaces your 70 millimeter as well. And you do it, yes, with a lens that is, of course, bigger than all of those lenses taken one by one, but in your backpack, you only have like this. And maybe if you want to be super covered, you want a wider angle lens and a longer telephoto lens for depending on what you're going to shoot. But most of the time, you can get everything done with one lens, like this one. So it kind of sits in the sweet spot. It's a lens that, yes, it's expensive, yes, it's heavy, yes, it's big, but it's not too big, not too heavy, and not too expensive for you to give it a try. Not all of us, I cannot justify for me, for example, go with the 28 to 72. I don't have in Europe, that is more than 3,500 euros. I'm not gonna justify spending that much on that zoom, although I believe it's gonna be great. But with this one, I purchased used for slightly above 1,000 euros. This lens does 90% of what I would do with the Sony at a third of the price. It's got everything that you want. It's got the smooth aperture. If you want it, you can lock the aperture in place if you want it. It's literally everything you can ask for a fast aperture lens. It's really the only thing that I can complain, aside from the zoom being the opposite way compared to the other lenses, is this glossy part over here that you're seeing. I don't really like it that much, but that's really being nitpicky. Even the hood is made in a way that it feels better than the vast majority of the hoods that you find around. But in the end, what really matters is the image quality in the autofocus. And I forgot to mention the bokeh. The bokeh that you get out of this lens is simply exceptionally good for a zoom lens. So this is a 2 to 3 months review of this lens with a heavy use, because I've used it a lot. In my opinion, if you're on the fence of buying this lens, for me, I would push you to do it, because what you lose on the telephoto end compared to the 28 to 75 for Tamron or 24 to 70 from Sigma as well, you gain it on the aperture side of it, and you can always crop in, and cameras are going with higher megapixel at every new release. So I don't think losing a little bit of a telephoto end is going to change your life that much. And if it doesn't change your life that much, this is almost a must buy, because this lens has got no flaws, like literally no flaws, which is hard to expect from an f1.8 zoom. You would expect it to be a very compromised lens, right? What Sigma has done with this lens is just spectacular. You can use it for everything that you can possibly think, and it's gonna deliver 100% of the times. I really couldn't find any real complaint about either image quality or autofocus where it really matters. The glossy part of the zooming, it's really a stupid complaint. It's just being nitpicky and wanting to find something to say about something that I don't like about the lens. But realistically, this lens is just spectacular. There's no other way of talking about it. I think that's it for today. This is wanting to be a shout out basically at Sigma for what they're doing, because just coming up with incredible stuff. Now they released a 300 to 400 f4. That is a lens that no one has ever done. And yet they do it and they sell it at a bargain price if you want. Yes, it's heavy, it's big, but you would expect it. And now they're also coming up with a 16 to 300 for APS-C. I'm dying to try to that lens on my Fujifilm cameras, because I believe that lens could be the one lens to rule them all. And Sigma has built themselves a reputation to be able to pull out something like that and make it really good. So again, shout out to Sigma. This lens is a statement of what is possible to be done in a lens landscape, and the fact that even if it's extreme, you can do it the right way all the time. Big compliments from me to Sigma, because they really are pushing the boundaries of what is possible to do. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.